So everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Maddy Martin. I'm the head of growth and education for SMITH.AI. We're a 24/7 virtual receptionist and intake service for small businesses, most of whom are service businesses, many of whom are attorneys, solo small firms. And we do these webinars so that we can bring additional value beyond just the answering, scheduling, and intake that we're doing on a daily basis to help you run a more efficient, professional, profitable, productive business. So with that in mind, Trevor is here. He is the LinkedIn master, and he is going to be talking about LinkedIn strategies specifically for service businesses. And we'll talk today about a number of things, including how to position yourself as the go-to expert and authority on LinkedIn to attract your ideal prospects, how to create a content strategy that is high value, full of desirable content, and positions you as a thought leader, and then growing your client base with LinkedIn without spending hours on the platform daily. Nobody has time for that. So Trevor, let's just hear a little bit about you. Tell us about yourself and how you have turned your expertise into a business, into a revenue stream for yourself, and then we'll just jump into it.
Yeah, so I'm Trevor Robinson. If you want a title, I would say LinkedIn expert, business strategist, mentor, coach, the whole gambit, consultant. My experience really resides in, I kind of hit that digital marketing boom back in, 2009. So I was kind of like a unicorn where I was at the early coattails, and then I, grew my business expertise, got a lot of experience and diversity in businesses, combined with my passion for marketing. And so I look at these tools and I look at them more as just tools, right? There's a lot of psychology strategies that we have to do and implement. And so what I really focus on is helping train, coach, and implement these strategies for businesses, for large corporations, for individuals, because LinkedIn specifically is an amazing platform for us to establish ourselves, to build these personal brands. But more importantly, it's not a one size fits all, right? And so I think what I'm going to cover today is going to really be eye-opening to many individuals. And hopefully by the end of this, there's a lot to cram in, but hopefully you'll be taking notes. I'll talk fast so we can get through it. But I'll make myself available for some questions at the end, because I see a few are already rolling in here.
Awesome.
All right, so let me dive in and share my screen here. All right, can you just confirm to me that you can see this?
Looks great.
All right, great. So this session is called LinkedIn Strategies for Service-Based Businesses, Ignite the Power of Your LinkedIn. And when I first was speaking with Maddy about this, I had all these working titles in my head, and the title that made the most sense to me, and this was almost the one I fought for, because this is what I think is going to be the most accurate, is, if we really just dumb this down to the basic level, people buy from people, right? So it's like, stop hiding behind your brand and connect with your audience. Okay, and so today's goal, as Maddy explained, in the short time we have together, we're going to discuss some strategies that you can position yourself as the go-to expert in order to attract those ideal prospects and clients. We're going to talk about how you can create a content strategy that's high value, full of desirable content that your industry likes, and that's engaging. I saw one of the comments was, how do I get more engagement? So this will help solve that for you. And then how to grow your client base on LinkedIn without spending hours on the platform. So that's the biggest misconception. So it's a big promise. So I hope we can get through that all today. So why LinkedIn? First and foremost, LinkedIn is rapidly growing. So if you're not on LinkedIn, or you already currently are on LinkedIn, you've probably seen or will notice the platform has transitioned itself pretty drastically. Okay, so of all the social media platforms, LinkedIn is actually the best platform for generating leads for your business. It actually rates at almost 300% more effective than tools like Twitter, Facebook. There's all these new platforms popping up. So it's like, where do we spend our attention, right? We have limited time in our day. Where do we go? I love LinkedIn because it's proven over and over and over again to be the best platform. And especially if we're in service-based businesses, it is the largest business-to-business platform there is in the social sphere. So it makes sense that we hang out on these platforms because it really allows us to establish our thought leadership there. But the biggest difference here with LinkedIn, I love this, this graphic, is that LinkedIn, 80% of members on LinkedIn actually want to connect with the companies or the individuals that they're making decisions with, okay? And so there's a lot of cool features, which I'll show you, that allows you to really show your customers who it is that you are and let them get to know you a little bit more intimately. Okay, and so 51% of companies actually acquire business-to-business customers through LinkedIn. But more importantly, it actually allows us to engage with our customers. And we'll kind of show some examples of how we can do that. So in a perfect world, right, all things being perfect, what we really want to shoot for on LinkedIn is to be sought after as an industry leader. We want a profile that positions us as an authority, not hurts us. And I'll show a great example of that, specifically in the attorney space. We want to be viewed as the obvious and relevant choice. We want to know exactly how our traffic that's coming into our LinkedIn profile is flowing through. We want to have warm conversations and messages waiting in our inbox for us. We want to make sure that we're building trust and attracting these top clients. And this is a place where LinkedIn plays very nicely with Google. So a lot of individuals don't realize that. So if we build our LinkedIn, what happens is if somebody Googles your name, your LinkedIn profile actually ranks at the top. It has some of the top search engine optimization value there. So it's a great place. If somebody's Googling your name, you can control what they see right there in Google. So it's another chance to appear. Unfortunately, what happens is there's all these invisible wires, and I call them wires because this is what trip people up in having success, right? So the first is they have a lack of consistent branding and credibility. They have a lack of differentiation or a competitive advantage. Then there's lack of visibility. We have an amazing example of this one. They don't have a fully optimized profile. They lack credibility or social proof. And what social proof is, showing you can get results for people, showing how you have done X, Y, and Z. That way it adds that credibility and trust factor. And more importantly, it's the lack of understanding of all the possibilities that actually reside here. Okay, and so when I start to think about LinkedIn, I first want to take a step back, right? So if we look at the fundamental psychology and foundations in business, right? There's really three fundamental ways that you go about growing a business, okay? And so the first one is you can acquire new clients and customers. So that's really the area that we're all in. So that's typically your word of mouth, your referrals. You can go the paid route, the sponsorship, radio, TV, all that fun stuff. And then there's the organic, which is a little bit slower, but it's a little bit more intimate. So this is your social media, your personal brand, etc. The second way you can grow a business is through increasing the average sale, okay? And so this comes in through increasing your conversions, secondary revenue, so that's your cross sells, upsells, VIP offers, etc. We're charging for like strategy sessions, all that fun stuff. And the third way is increasing the frequency that somebody buys from you, right? So you're getting your repeat purchases, your referrals. This is typically like the loyalty programs, education you might sell to them, resells, etc. So I mentioned that because LinkedIn is a perfect avenue where we can actually hit the trifecta of all of those. Okay, so we'll kind of show at the end how we make that happen. But unfortunately, we can't hit that in the current state of digital marketing. So we all have businesses and we need to brand ourselves and acquire customers. And so what's actually happening in the state of current digital marketing is that we have Facebook ads, right? Some people might run the ads. This is temporary solution. It's expensive. There's always cost increase, which means it cuts into your profit margins. Things always change. Then we have referrals. So referrals in most industries decreased rapidly once this pandemic actually hit, right? So this puts us at a risk of others. And so oftentimes word of mouth is really where things traveled online. So that kind of dried up a little bit. Then we got web traffic, right? This is what everybody loves, like SEO, everyone wants to sell SEO services. It's getting really tough to rank, right? And SEO, you're always at a factor of the Google algorithms, right? So getting web traffic is kind of dying down. And then you have the traditional, well, we post on our company page, right? No one's liking it. No one's engaging with it. Why not? Well, there's algorithms in play now, right? So the only goal of social networks is to get a user to stay on the platform as long as possible, because that's how they make money. They monetize by being able to show ads. So the sites, LinkedIn is essentially saying, hey, we can show this company's page post or we can show Maddie's post that she's a human, right? They're always going to show human content first. So the landscape is shifting. So company pages are essentially dead nowadays. I'm kind of advising everybody that like get away from them, run to the hills, because you're putting more work in than the value that's coming out of it. So those are only really good if you're running paid traffic to give those pages boost, right? So we have to ask ourselves, really, what is the solution to all of this? And there's a transitioning happening, right? And it's really the humanization of brands, right? It goes back to the second title, which is that, people buy from people, okay? And so before we dive into the LinkedIn stuff, there's a big shift, right? We need to understand two fundamentals here. And this is really like the high intent versus being first choice, okay? And so this is like, when I work with most service-based businesses, this is the one that they kind of have the first aha moment of what's actually happening, because they say, well, I need to run ads, or I got to get the Google ranking up because people are searching for me, they got to find me, etc. High intent is really an active buyer that's in the marketplace, right? They're actively looking and exploring for their options. But first choice means that you're the simple no-brainer, right? A search does not need to happen because you are sought after. I know that I have a potential legal issue that I need to solve. I'm going to seek out Maddy because I've seen her everywhere. I trust her. People are talking about her online. They're tagging her. They're referring her, etc. Right? So high intent is your Google searches. It's your phone book. It's your ads. It's when someone's literally sitting in front of a computer and they don't even know where to begin, right? First choice is, it's highly recommended. They know you are that go-to expert, right? So everything that we are going to focus on today is we want to get to the first choice, because the first choice takes a little time to build up, but the payoff will last a lifetime, right? Because it's your brand. People get to know you. And we are the best kept secrets. That's the most amazing part, is everybody feels like they're the best kept secret because they're relying on this high intent environment, right? And so if you think about it, I used to work with a lot of attorneys and run some paid traffic for them. And what happened was every single time, they would stop paid traffic, and so they would be like, well, we're stopping the paid traffic because we're ranking #1 now on Google. And then they would always come back and say, hey, we're not getting as many active inquiries. And it's like, well, yeah, because your competition literally just ran an ad on the Google search that you're #1, but they're ahead of you. So what are you going to do, right? You got to go back to advertising. And it's because they didn't focus on the brand enough. They put all their eggs in, well, they got to get to our website to sell them, right?
So Trevor, let me interrupt you for 1 second, because I think that it's really important what you're focusing on here, and you can do nothing beyond this if it's not extremely clear. There is an element of demand generation here, and not just, oh, I'm looking around, I'm asking my friends, I need to go through my list and see who did I write in my notebook for the time when I was ready to hire a lawyer or whatever service or business, right? Like, oh, you're getting married. Okay, I'm ready for my vendors. Where's my Instagram? And let me go find that person who I saved who does flowers nicely, right?
Exactly.
That's one thing, but the demand generation that you're going to power here with this first choice, with this expertise and thought leadership, means that you don't actually just have these two sort of dynamics at play. You also actually have a third, which is someone who doesn't even know that they need your services.
Exactly.
Who thinks maybe they're going to go it on their own. They're going to read books. They're going to be their own expert. They're going to be their own self-coaching, or they're going to be their own lawyer. They're going to, figure their solution out on their own. People go through this with services all the time, right? They try and throw the huge comforter in the washer, even though they should take it to the dry cleaner, right? And that could be applied to any
guilty
or other scenario. But if you're in front of them and you know your target audience, you can actually convince them through exposure, right? Through this expertise to generate demand that didn't even exist in the first place.
Yeah, it's a great point. And that's a great segue into some of the other stuff that we're going to talk about, because this is the game is changing now, right? And like the word of mouth is really dictating everything. And it's the conversations. It's the conversation with Maddy that, like, wait, you take your sheets to the dry cleaner? Like, why? right? And so like in the past, it was just all you simply Google something, but nowadays it's really people are using the power of the internet, the community, right? They're going to Reddit to look up something. If they want to review, they're going into Facebook groups, they're asking their peers, they're going to all these crazy niche sites first and foremost to do the research before they even come to people, right? So it's like the game has really changed here. And that's really what I wanted to emphasize here for us, because we want to focus on being first choice because it opens up all of these doors and avenues. And when we get to the content here in a few slides, you're going to see why we need to do that and how we can go about actually doing that. Right. So the very first step here is that we first and foremost, we need to get visible on LinkedIn, right? We need to let people know that we are, hey, I'm the expert here, right? And so I call this leveraging your expert positioning, okay? And so you have one first impression, you have to make it count, right? And so your profile needs to speak to your audience, right? So the one thing a profile is not in 2021 is a resume. That's the biggest thing I see, because LinkedIn was a resume site back in the day. Microsoft bought them for 26.2 billion with a B dollars. So it's, LinkedIn's not going anywhere. And they really transition it now to this professional website. So we need to first position it that we are the experts. We need to showcase the problems that we actually saw. We need to put ourselves in their shoes. So the number one area that I see most people go wrong, just in marketing in general, is everybody focuses on the promise. But we need to focus on the problem that we solve, right? We hear promises every day, but if we can really focus on the problems that we help solve, that is how you get people to raise their hand and say, hey, you're actually speaking to me. I'm actually feeling that pain too. Or, hey, I'm having this. I want to inquire about your services because I think you might be able to help me. Okay, so we need to shift to focus on the problems, and then we need to let the world know what it is that we offer, right? We talked about those 3 ways of generating business. If I took a show of hands, I would bet a lot of individuals here are probably slacking in one of those 3 or even 2 of those 3, being able to generate, upsells, cross sells, repeat business, et cetera, because they're not positioning and telling the market, hey, Maddy, I actually have this as well. I can do that as well, right? So we tend to and that's the problem when we focus entirely on high intent, is that it's high intent for one service, right? They don't know all the other things that you can have. Now, the reason I love LinkedIn is that I would probably guarantee my profile gets more views than most of the individuals on this call's single website every month. And I will probably bet that once you apply this stuff, the same will hold true for you as well, right? So the LinkedIn profile is extremely powerful. The reason is when somebody makes a search on LinkedIn, it shows the search results, right? And they can click in if you have a really strong headline, which we'll show you an example of, and a good photo, you'll stand out to capture their attention because it's a search engine. It's a ginormous search engine is what LinkedIn is. Okay, and so what happens then is that that's a way that you'll get people to your profile. People will see you engaging on the site and they'll come to your profile. There's going to be people that follow you or that are connected with you that are going to see you and go into your profile. And then you're going to have people from the outside. LinkedIn works on connections, so 2nd degree, 3rd degree. And so you could, if I post something and Maddy likes it, people in Maddy's network might see that. So I get new eyeballs on it. That's the power of this whole system. Okay. So people are going to funnel in to your profile. It's like a new landing page essentially. So this is what I call the profile funnel. We need to kind of flip the switch and start to think now that our LinkedIn profile is not just like a resume. It's actually a landing page, right? So people can land on this from external sources. They find it on the Google searches that they searched your name. They find it on your website, right? They find it because you did a presentation and they came in. Like there's a lot of ways from external sources. They might land on this from the connections or your LinkedIn activity. Or if you want to run some paid ads, your name can appear there in those ads as well. And naturally, they're probably going to click on your name, right? So your profile is almost like your sales page. It's your landing page where you can capture your audience. Now, the reason we want to focus on our profile and making it positioned as an expert, but also we can use this because people are going to be able to message us after they've landed on that. They're going to be able to land on our free giveaway that we might have, or they might be able to book a call with us because they clicked on the link in our LinkedIn profile. It's really the sales elements, helping capture that audience, right? We can dictate where we want the traffic to flow through, which is amazing. And then they might send an email to you as well. So there's a lot of ways. And then that ultimately gets them into your sales process or your pipeline. So I want us to start thinking in terms of how can I approach LinkedIn and my profile to make sure I have calls to action in there that would be the relevant next step for my perfect future customer, right? So we want to make sure that they're the next relevant step. And we'll talk about that in the content section. It's a little bit different from everybody. Some people have, hey, book a free consultation with me. Some people give lead magnets away, like, hey, here's the five steps to know if you need to work with an attorney. It really depends on your market and your audience and your offer, but you can highlight that throughout your LinkedIn profile and get a lot of good high quality clicks onto that. So when we start to look at the LinkedIn profile, I kid you guys not. So I actually spent 28 minutes last night trying to find a good LinkedIn attorney profile, and I could not find one. So it is a wide open blue ocean out there. This is the best I could find. I don't even know David, but kudos to you, David, for having a somewhat, it kind of ranked near the top when I searched attorney. I had to search attorney in New York to even find anything remotely close to optimize. So if you look at this is my partner. We run Success on LinkedIn. This is my partner, Celeste. We do a lot of LinkedIn training and so forth. And look at the two profiles here, right? One is optimized. The other is not. And here's the kicker. David here is using LinkedIn Premium. That's what that little IN stands for. And that means he's probably using it to do some advanced searches, things like that. Well, if you message people on LinkedIn, even for, I know attorneys, you can't necessarily like message prospects and such, but like if you want to like reach out to somebody in your area to build a relationship with, strategic alliance, joint venture, et cetera, this is the first impression that they're getting of you, right? So we want to make sure that we are able to position ourselves that way. When they see it right away, they're just like, wow, this is like a landing page. So if you look at Celeste, right away, is your profile telling the story you want? Like, this is a free billboard, right? Imagine that, you're not paying $2,000 to have a billboard in your town anymore. It's literally free on LinkedIn to speak to your avatar. We have calls to action in there, a little hashtag that we have. Like, we're controlling the entire narrative in this case. You'll also notice a few other things that we do very uniquely. We leverage the last name. So the last name here on LinkedIn says growth success strategist. David here could put David Kupfer dash and then any credential that he has, right? So you can really add that layer of expertise in your LinkedIn profile. And then the last thing here is David's reads still like a resume, which is, it's good to add that credibility, but you can actually put in there kind of like Celeste has, she's a LinkedIn strategist. She catalyzes LinkedIn conversations that convert, helps turn experts into highly visible authority figures without the guesswork. Top 1% industry viewed LinkedIn profile, consultant and training, and then, mom. So my profile has dad in there. I add the personal element, right? That's that humanization. You would not believe how many people message me being like, oh, you're a dad. Cool. It's good to see, fellow, dads on LinkedIn. So the idea here is that we want to make sure that we're, leveraging the power of the headline, because I have this analogy that anyone who gets to know me, they know I love this. It's called the 3 lost puppies, right? And so the 3 lost puppies, they essentially, I call it that because they follow you everywhere you go on LinkedIn, just like a lost puppy would, right? And so the 3 lost puppies are your name's following you everywhere. Your photo is following you everywhere. And your headline is following you everywhere, okay? So if we look on the screen here, look at Celeste, we whited out her background, we put a little ring on it, so it pops, right? It stops the scroll in search results, or when she's commenting, people see that. They also see her name, so we leverage the name capability. And then lastly, our headline is meaningful. It lets us know what problem that we actually have, what problem that we solve. So we speak to the avatar, right? Well, our avatar, most of them have trouble converting conversations. So right away, they're like, oh, wow, that's what I need some help with, or I don't know how to get visible on LinkedIn, right? So we speak to that. So those are the 3 lost puppies. That's the lowest hanging fruit. If you do nothing else this weekend, but fix those 3 and put some thought into them, I will guarantee you'll be ahead of probably 95% of individuals on LinkedIn. Okay, so that's the key takeaway right there. Next is, and David didn't really have anything kind of going down the page. This is Celeste. There's an amazing about section on LinkedIn that lets you tell your audience how you help them. Most people write this in just a flat, no spaces. It's just one run-on paragraph, and they talk about, it's a resume, right? And it's like, I don't care what you do. I care how you can help me. Talk about the experiences, pique my interest, right? It's a marketing exercise. And so the rule of thumb is like your first sentence has to capture their attention, right? People read headlines now, they're scanners. And so with Celeste, right away, like I expanded it, but in her about section, the very first thing would say, are you tired of playing by somebody else's rulebook, question mark? People are going to be intrigued by that and then click on it. And then it kind of expands down. Now, I cut off the screenshot, but if you would keep scrolling, you would see there's very clear calls to action. Hey, book a call here, download this free thing here, do this here, etc. But the nice thing is you can see it's very visually appealing, right? It speaks to the audience. It lets us know some problems that you can solve. It's really all encompassing to speak to the audience. It's free text there. So the about section is a great place to do that. And then LinkedIn as well has this new feature, featured section. So it's rolled out about a year ago, where it will highlight in these really nice visual blocks, and it allows you to feature your own content or content from, like, you can put your website, you can put a calendar to book a call with you. You can brand this very nicely. So if you notice, this is an image of Celeste, this is our branding color. So she put an image in there, and you can brand this whole thing out and put calls to action, featured post. If you have frequently asked questions that your clientele ask you, that's an amazing thing there. Like, we want to make this customer centric, right? That's the idea behind the LinkedIn profile. And I'm going to go back one slide because there's one thing I forgot that's a new feature that's pretty awesome. If you notice here beside Celeste, right where it says first, it has a little microphone there. LinkedIn rolled this out this summer. It's a little feature that allows you to announce your name. Okay, so if you have a name that's hard to pronounce, you can only do this through the mobile app on LinkedIn, but it allows you to voice record up to 10 seconds and you can say your name, right? The way we use this is it doesn't take me 10 seconds to say Trevor Robinson. So I'm going to say Trevor Robinson, and I'm going to use those remaining seconds to say something to my audience, right? So I think mine says, hey, this is Trevor Robinson. If you need help with anything related to LinkedIn, feel free to shoot me a message. Right. And so I still probably had 3 or 4 seconds I could have played with there. So this is just another thing that really stands out. Now, the benefit when you complete your profile like this, LinkedIn's going to start showing you higher and higher in those search results. So if you're an attorney on this call right now, you have a wide open game plan to get ranked pretty high. Now, what you could also do is if you're very regional, what you could do is optimize this so that it says like attorney Dallas, attorney Brooklyn, right? And really put those keywords in, because then what's going to happen is if somebody's searching Google for like litigation Dallas or business litigation New York or Brooklyn, not only is your website going to pop up, but now your LinkedIn's popping up there as well. So you just got 2 shots at bat to really tell the world, like, I'm the guy here, right? Google's recommending me a lot. So it's a giant search engine, right? So we have to treat it as such. So step number 2 here, and this is the fun part, creating high value content that it's going to convert. Content's the number one thing that everyone does incorrectly. So 80%, this is the 80-20 rule. If nothing else, just jot this down. This will help you in your marketing drastically. 80% of your marketing should be educating the market. It should be thought leadership. It should be rapport building. The other 20% should be selling, putting offers out, social proof, etc. Right? Nearly all service-based businesses get this part wrong. Every single time I see individuals posting on social media, it's all me, 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 my product, my product, my product, call me, call me, call me, book a call, do this, download that. The market's fatigued of that stuff. People buy from people, right? So we need to shift how we start thinking. And if you're if you're in the financial industry, start putting out education content to your marketplace. Educate them on the common misconceptions. Educate them on how they can benefit from X, Y, and Z. Let them get to know you, build rapport with them, ask silly questions from time to time. You have to humanize it so that they don't think of your name and spamming right away, or here's another pitch coming, because the algorithms will stop showing your content, right? Because it's kind of like a gatekeeper. If a few people don't like it, it's gonna stop showing it to everybody else. So this is a big shift. And so this is the viral impact, right? So let's face it, business owners are lazy. I have to say it. It's the elephant in the room. And they just love the share button. They love clicking share, right? It's because it's easy, but it's really these three factors here, right? So number one is imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is like, I don't feel I'm good enough, right? I don't think I have an original thought, or Maddy already talked about that, or this guy's going to think I'm copying him, etc. So imposter syndrome actually prevents the majority of individuals from actually posting content. The second is lack of time or resources, right? So it's like they just don't have the dedicated time to put towards their marketing, although hopefully with SMITH.AI, it frees up some of that time so you can focus on these things. And then the third is they just have a lack of understanding or strategy, or even knowing what their audience wants, right? That's the biggest thing. What does my audience want to know or hear from me, right? So it's a lack of understanding what to post. So we can use this to our advantage, because we're going to, next slide, show you how to create a strategy of content your audience wants and loves and engages with. But more importantly, other peers in your industry will most likely start sharing this content because they need to educate their audience. But guess whose name is going to be attached to it? Your name, right? So you're still the primary person. Okay. So I don't know if anyone's really ever seen this before, but in marketing, there's this pyramid, right? It's called audience awareness levels. Okay. And so the biggest part of any audience out there is completely unaware. So we talked about this, 10 minutes ago or so, where it's like, I don't know that I can take my sheets to the dry cleaner. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing, right? So the largest part of any market is actually completely unaware. But the good news is that that's like the biggest pool that you have to fish from, right? And there's an analogy, it's called upside. I forget who coined it, but it works really well here. And so the P stands for problem aware. These are individuals now that they know they have a problem, right? So if you're an attorney, I go from, well, I didn't even know that I needed something, to now I understand I have a problem, right? I might want to attain an attorney for this to start to look into things, right? So I have a problem. Then there's a solution aware audience, right? I'm educating myself kind of up this ladder. Now I know there's a bunch of solutions. I have the solution that Maddy offers this. I can go this route. I can go to LegalZoom. I think that's one of the sites, right? I can go to Rocket Lawyer. I can use this attorney here. I could just completely ignore it. I'm starting to become aware of all the solutions that are in the marketplace. Then there's your solution aware. I know that Maddy has a solution, and I understand now exactly what it is, the offers, the benefits, etc. Right? So that's a good chunk of the market there. And then you have the people that just want to deal, right? These are just the people, they don't really care about anything else. They just want to, in the finance world, they just want to get their taxes done, right? They don't care about all the potential other elements. They just want to get out the door the cheapest possible. So this is the irony, though. The people that want to deal, or that are ready to buy, and deal and buy are kind of the same segment of the marketplace. It's only 2 to 3% of actual buyers in the marketplace are actively ready to purchase at any given time. And so the irony here is, why do we play in this ballpark? Every single person plays in this they do their cold pitching, their high intent marketing, they take a volume play. All of their content is, hey, buy, book a call, book a call, book a call. And they ignored the biggest part of their market that they can capture over time. Okay. And so this is unsustainable, right? This is commoditized. It relies on tactics. It relies on funds. It relies on like the Facebook ads, the SEO play nonstop, because we're all chasing that 2 to 3% of active buyers in the overall marketplace that could use and need services. So this is the new way, right? We have to flip this whole thing upside down and tackle the biggest audience in the marketplace, right? And so to do this, if we think about the top of the funnel, we can then flip our mindset to say, how can we go about approaching content in a manner that's going to push them down the funnel? That way they can convert into a client, right? So instead of always working up, we're now working our way down. So in this whole big gap, we do things that we couldn't do when we segmented the high intent audience. So what we can do now is we have education that we can provide to them. We can nurture them, build rapport. We're building trust, showing our authority. We're getting way more referrals, right? Because people are seeing us in our content now. We're getting recommendations. We're showing our authenticity. More importantly, we're giving people access to us, right? We're no longer hiding behind the scenes. People can actually reach out to us and just say, hey, I'm kind of curious. And then you can say, hey, this looks great, talk to so-and-so, right? And then they can kind of go down, start getting in your sales process. And so what we want to think about in this hierarchy here is that we're going to start pushing things like stories and education. We're going to start talking about benefits and anxieties that your audience has. You can start talking about claims and proof. Then you got your discounts and deals, your product and your pricing. This is kind of like getting closer to the bottom there where we're starting to get to that client. So I know right now the biggest question everyone has is, well, what kind of content do I create that audience wants at those levels, right? So there's some pretty cool tools here. Actually, before I get to that, I do want to talk about the importance of this. So there's a famous philosopher, Hermann Ebbinghaus, and he creates this thing called the forgetting curve, right? And so what the forgetting curve essentially states is that as every day goes by, we forget or we retain less of what we were taught or absorbed, okay? And so this is extremely important for us in business because we're putting something out, but 2 or 3 days later, they're completely forgetting about you, okay? And so the reason we need to be active on social media and keep on putting content out is so that people don't forget about us, right? We tend to think, oh, they're going to remember, but it's pretty eye-opening when we look at how little people actually retain. So this is why we constantly have to hit our market over and over and over with things. And so when we start to think then, well, what kind of content am I posting, right? I like to say, listen to the voice of the customer, right? Give them what they're asking for. It's that easy. And so there are so many amazing resources here that will give you endless content ideas. My favorite website in the entire world is called Answer the Public. You literally type a keyword in and it will search and pull together these really nice like infographics. It'll list everything in the prepositions. And what it's going to do is tell you every single thing that somebody on the internet is searching around that keyword. So if you type in attorney, you'll get all kinds of results. How to use an attorney, how much does an attorney cost? How long do you have to work with an attorney? What does an attorney retainer mean, right? And they're giving you all the things that your audience is actually searching for, right? So that's an amazing resource because then all you have to do is segment the content and say, okay, well, this is for an unaware audience. This is for kind of aware. This is for less aware, etc. Another one I love is Google Trends and Google Keyword Planner. You can go and see what things are popping up. What are people searching for, right? Kind of gives you like some things that are hot at the moment. And then my personal favorite, the lowest hanging fruit of all time, is Amazon, right? I go and search something on Amazon, and typically if something's doing well on Amazon, they've already cracked the code, right? They've already cracked through to my audience. So if you're an attorney, you could go on Amazon and just start typing in keywords related to like different services that you offer. And there's probably going to be books out there that authors have written to educate the market for that self-help type audience that wants to do it all themselves. But you're going to see their subtitles, their chapters, but you have this amazing thing called Amazon reviews. And that's the voice of your customer telling you what they liked, what they didn't understand. This was amazing. And you have all of that information now, and you can just compile a list. And again, endless amounts of content to talk about. The second thing is going to be Reddit. I love Reddit. There's a lot of legal forums on Reddit. Just go in there and see what people are asking, right? So people tend to go to Reddit first because they want to always try to prepare themselves before they go into working with an attorney or a financial planner, et cetera. So you can just kind of see what are the common questions, because if you can start creating this content around these various questions asked at each stage, you're going to educate your market and build so much trust, right? They're going to love you for this because now you're that go-to expert. You're the one that is always providing the answers that they're thinking of before they actually ask them. And then step 3 here is going to be the secret sauce. This is like, it's so powerful, which is engage, right? And so we want to basically bring our ideal avatar into our world, right? Into our network, right? So we want to start connecting with a lot of individuals, building that network out and engaging with them, right? So I like to think of this as like you have a pond that you can build in your backyard, okay? And so that's your LinkedIn network. If I like salmon, but I hate tuna fish, I'm probably not going to stock it with tuna fish, right? So I'm going to stock it with salmon, and I'm going to nurture that. I'm just going to keep feeding it. On LinkedIn, it's going to be giving it content, engaging with it. When they post, just go make your name pop up. It doesn't have to be anything about what you service you provide, etc. But when you start engaging with your audience and providing value, your name's going to pop up. Some segment of the audience is going to be curious and they're going to get back into that profile of yours, right? But it allows you to establish yourself as an expert, especially if it's you're in LinkedIn groups. There's some groups, there's not much engagement in them. So it's a good opportunity because if people ask questions, you can chime in as the expert and ask provide amazing responses. So I know a few attorneys that their success strategy was literally just going and answering questions in depth on a site called Quora. Stands for question or answer. And they just took the SEO play. No one else, people were asking questions. They would just go in and provide the most in-depth answered questions, and people would start loving it. And then they would just, get all their business that way. So it's just putting yourself out there as the expert. And then the third thing here is going to be start conversations, not sales pitches, right? I like to call them warm conversations. So it's not hard for me to just bring Maddy into my network, or I see her posting on something and I like it, I comment on it, and then I can connect with her and just say, hey, Maddy, thanks so much for being in my network. I like what you're doing. Would love to stay in touch, right? Super simple. There's no sales pitch. But now what's going to happen is when I post content, the algorithm's giving it love, right? It's going to say, hey, Maddy might want to see this because you guys have been, sending these social signals back and forth to the algorithm, right? And so then I can approach Maddy later and she can give me recommendations. She might see something, she might pass it along to somebody because it's value relationship building is all it is, right? And so there's a saying I really love that it's like, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Okay. And it's so true in the sense that, people just, the expert at hand is the expert in sight, right? And it's typically the people, unless you've really wowed somebody and you're like the go-to, that was an amazing experience. What happens is if you say like, hey, what's your favorite pizza place? I would give you right now 5 recommendations because they were the last 5 that I had and no amazing ones stood out. So having these value building relationships and just having your name appear, you'll be amazed at how much this compounds over time. And people can start to say like, oh, it's Maddy, talk to Maddy. Oh, let me recommend Maddy, right? I built my entire business off of this and never sent a single cold pitch to anybody. I just started conversations. And what happened then is people started saying, Trevor's the guy. You got to talk to Trevor, right? So that's kind of the strategy there. And it's really then about networking, right? LinkedIn's a business to business. You got to build the strategic relationships.
So Trevor, I just want to chime in here. I put something in the chat, but I want to share it.
Okay.
So there is so much low hanging fruit. I think a lot of people just
Very
get
low.
analysis paralysis. Like, you freak yourself out. Oh my gosh, I'm broadcasting myself. It's like when you did your first Zoom call, or when I first started doing this series, you have your first, on stage presentation, whatever it is, you think, I'm not worthy. Why does anyone want to hear what I have to say? Is my comment going to be valuable, or is what I have to say garbage? Even though you're a successful professional, and in every other walk of life, during the time of day when you do your business off of LinkedIn, you're great at it, right? But for some reason, there's this erosion of confidence that happens. Like, you have to just push past that. It is something that everyone faces. You're not unique in feeling like a risk aversion here, but you just have to do it and realize everyone's been in that boat at some point. Not every comment's going to be genius, but you have to engage. And there are so many people who are not engaging that simply, if we think about that, like, visibility and demand generation, being present and being the first person who comes to mind when they do need a service, just showing up the same way that you would ask of an employee. When we think about who are our great employees, they're the ones who show up. Just by showing up, you get so much business.
Yeah, it's amazing. I give everybody on this call or watching this replay permission to promote themselves as experts, because you are experts, right? If we sit around and wait for somebody to call us an expert, we're going to die a long and slow, painful death, because
Yep.
that's what someone told me a long time ago. I'm a LinkedIn expert. I'm the best LinkedIn guy that I know. And if people feel otherwise, hey, that's awesome. But I did marketing because they at least are countering me saying, no, you're not, right? So it's like the same approach, right? You can't sit back, and there's so many people better at LinkedIn than me, right? And there's people I chat with daily that they would think I'm better than them. And I'm like, at the end of the day, we're both really good. But as professionals, we're all experts on this call. So we have to start telling the market, because at the end of the day, they don't know better, right? They just want, as long as you're educating them, as long as you can ethically solve their problem and you have good high morals and you're helping them out, you're doing your job. You are the expert in their world. So I'm glad that you chimed in on that.
Sure.
So if we think about this then, I covered okay. So if we think about this, then we talked about at the beginning of this, there's 3 fundamental ways to grow a business. Well, if we now look at this, I changed some words here, you probably didn't notice, but number 1, we're acquiring new clients and customers, right? Because we're first choice. We're more providing more relatability. We're getting more referrals on LinkedIn. We're walking into more opportunities, right? The second way is increasing the average sale value. What do you think's happening when we can hop on calls and people actually already know a little bit more about us? It's not that phone ringing because I just searched you, I needed help, right? So conversions go up, right? That's increasing the average sale value. But more importantly, you can start charging more, right? Because the leads are of higher quality. You're going to get more upsells, downsells, cross sells, because you're promoting that now. You're putting content out about the benefits of these complementary services. You're actually putting it in your profile, how you can help them, right? So you're promoting that a lot more. And then lastly, you're going to increase that frequency because you're top of mind, right? You've got brand recognition. They're coming back to you. You've got stronger referrals coming in. But more importantly, you've got more access. So you got more access to your audience, meaning visibility, right? So traditionally, when you think of, well, how do you access visibility in your marketplace? Well, I got to put a billboard out. They got to find me on my website. LinkedIn literally places you in front of them, right? So you can get those repeat purchases. So that's why when I start thinking about digital marketing, we start to think about this. This is all without paid ads. We didn't run a single paid ad. We didn't do a single SEO to our website. We didn't rely on website traffic. We didn't build any complex sales funnels, no referral sites that we had to pay to join. There's no sponsorships happening, right? This all just happened with LinkedIn, putting a brand out there, taking our time, etc. So if we look at a plan of attack here, build the initial profile optimization, right? This is going to take us 2 to 3 hours. And I have something at the end I'll give you to kind of like accelerate this for you. That's going to take you 2 or 3 hours. Then the content research is what trips most people up, because it's something that you kind of have to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole. You have to do some research, ask your customers, ask your past customers, see how others in your market are creating content. Go do these sites, like I said, Answer the Public, Reddit, Amazon, right? Compile that. Then you can figure out how you want to create content around that. I would recommend on LinkedIn, this is the easiest way, is create videos. Just pull up a camera on your phone. Perfection kills everybody, right? Just be very raw content, put it up, and people relate to that. And just say, hey, this is Maddy, CPA here. I'm just going to give you shooting a quick message to talk about, like, when you're filing your taxes this year, you really might want to consider XYZ as well, right? Because it's going to do this, this, and this, happy tax planning. Super simple, right? And as long as you can know that you're going to create that video, you can just batch all of your content for the month, right? And then just kind of map it out on like a planner. I would say on LinkedIn, in a perfect world, when you hit your stride 3 times a week, you're going to find it's pretty easy to post once a week, because you're going to have so much content, and you can have somebody help you with this. You can outsource content creation as well. There's a lot of ways you can get this done. I just want to give you some ideas. Then the last thing, once you kind of get that done, is daily activity on LinkedIn. 20 to 30 minutes a day is going to make you really successful on the platform. Really just spending your time connecting with your audience, posting and monitoring your content. If somebody leaves a comment, you always have to reply to that comment, right? And I have this rule. I call it the 1L, 1C rule. And it stands for 1 like, 1 comment. So every single time I log into LinkedIn, talk about low-hanging fruit. I see so many people just liking content. And I'm like, why would you not comment on that as well? Because when you comment, two things happen. Number one, the person that you're commenting on their post, they get a little notification bell. So you just got your name in front of that person. But number two is it actually puts your name out there in front of their entire audience who sees that post. So you're leveraging other people's traffic for free. You don't get that when you just go like something, because you're just buried in that number of 86 likes on this post, right? And so people aren't commenting because it takes work, right? So leverage that if you're going to like something, you always have to comment on it. And that implies engaging on other people's posts. This is in your industry. If people ask legal questions, you can go on LinkedIn and literally search the hashtag like legal advice, things, anything that your audience would be posting or asking about. Find content that you can post and engage on just to get your name out there. And then the last thing would just be messaging and networking with your connections. I try every single day at a minimum to send 5 to 10 personal. I send voice memos because they're really personal. So I would just send a voice memo and be like, hey, Maddy, thank you so much again for connecting. Hope your week's going well. Just want to chime in and say thanks for being in my network. If I can help you with anything, let me know. Hope you're having a great day. Super simple. I can do that on my phone on the way to a meeting and I can get it done, right? So 20 to 30 minutes a day, that's really all that it takes. So I would encourage you to just get into the cadence of this because it's so, so powerful. I cannot stress enough. And then the final ingredient of all of this here is you just have to have patience, but you have to have consistency, right? So are you going to hop on LinkedIn and see results overnight? It happens, but you just got to get your profile optimized. And LinkedIn gives you so many amazing metrics. It tells you how you rank in your industry, which is pretty awesome. It tells you how many people view your profile, how many people are, how many times you're appearing in the search results. So they give you all of these things. They can tell you who's viewed your profile. So you can kind of use those as metrics to make sure that you're making progress. But at the end of the day, you have to look at this as it's not like paid ads where you're going to start getting leads right away. This is your brand. The one thing nobody can take away from you is your brand. That's the only marketing that will never change. And so building a brand takes patience, consistency, and you'll crack the code a lot faster than you think you will, as long as you're actually consistent logging in. So with that said, I will save some time here for some questions. I did have a free gift for you. I have a profile optimization guide. It's like 50 pages, literally step by step. Unfortunately, our websites are in the middle of migration, host migrations right now. So if you are interested in this, just send me an email to this web address and just write like free gift. Or if you want more information on how we can work together, we have some programs and some one-on-one coaching as well. Just type in like more info and we'll get that over to you. With that said, I will take any questions. There is one question that I'm very passionate about though, Maddy, I want to address because I saw somebody mention it.
Go for it.
One of the questions I scanned over, I don't know if I can see the questions in the chat here somehow.
You can see answered, open, or was it in the chat itself?
It was in the chat itself, I think, when we started. But either way, the question was like, hey, I'm running some connection requests and messages, and I have some automation sequences going out. Please do not use automation tools. LinkedIn is banning those left and right. But more importantly, they're banning your accounts left and right if you're using those tools. But more importantly, what's happening is everybody is savvy. It's hard to build a personal connection with somebody when you're sending something that you can sniff it a mile away that it's automation and like, hey, let's hop on my call for a virtual coffee, right? Everyone kind of gets those. So don't use those, make your connections personal, and you're going to see a lot higher conversion and results. One thing I just recently did on LinkedIn, I changed my name to all capital letters. And the reason I did this was because I wanted to see what % of the connection requests I was getting were actually automated, because they put in the automation like, hi, first name, and it pulls. And you would not believe how many I just snipe off of there. And they're like, I was looking at your profile, we should connect. And I'm like, no, you weren't. You're sipping coffee.
Genius. That's totally genius, because honestly, if you're getting emails from LinkedIn too, and if one of the reasons why you are not free enough to do these things during your day is because you're opening those emails that have a great offer for you, like that is probably consuming the 30 minutes that you could be doing Trevor's method here. Like that's a great way to just test. is that something that got scraped from LinkedIn? Because what's happening is it's not just in LinkedIn messages, it's actually cross-platform, and you're getting emails from people who scrape the LinkedIn information.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing here, Matthew, I can't pronounce your last name here, but I just noticed this, and that's a great one. One thing you can do on LinkedIn is you can actually change this URL, right? This little custom URL. So yours says Matthew dash and then a bunch of numbers at the end. If you go into LinkedIn, I think it's in your profile, it's in the top right. LinkedIn has an amazing help center that can tell you how to do this. It's called a custom URL. You could actually change that Matthew to say, Matthew Blasdell, right? Or you could have it, if that's taken, it could say like Matthew Blasdell, lawyer, right? So some people can put keywords in there if they want, but it keeps it nice and clean. That way, it helps with the optimization with LinkedIn.
Yeah, so John Strohmeyer just put in the chat, he's linkedin.com /in/John the lawyer.
Yeah, that's a great one.
And John, also, I will say this, it's really recognizable. And I know that John does this on other platforms because I actually know John. Be consistent. So like if you're John the lawyer on LinkedIn, and you can be John the lawyer on Twitter, and you can be John the lawyer, on, Clubhouse or wherever you are right now. That's something that is really impactful. Like I know another criminal defense lawyer, Justy, and her email, I won't give you the full email, is Justy for Justice, and then some more. So Justy for Justice is also Twitter handle. It's also maybe the LinkedIn URL. So those are things that you can build a brand from just that small thing. So instantly it's recognizable. Did I find the right John, the estate planning attorney? Yes, I did. I see he's in Texas. It's Marathon John, or it's John the lawyer, or whatever. I instantly know. And yes, I know him, but people who really don't know him can feel like they know him, because not only is it consistent, it's also memorable, right?
Yeah.
Like you are in a sphere where almost everyone, including myself, using, first and last name, capitalize it, put a little halo around your profile image like Trevor has shown, and then give yourself a brand. There's no one who's going to do it for you. There's no invitation you're going to get in the mail. You have to do it yourself.
Yeah, you're right. It's consistency. And I look at this, like there are no shortcuts. I would not want any shortcuts for my brand. There's only one person that can speak the way I speak, that can communicate the way I communicate, that can build relationships the way I build relationships. So there's some things that I don't believe in outsourcing. My brand is one of them. And so I would look at LinkedIn as like, this is your brand. Like there are a lot of amazing individuals on LinkedIn that have built incredible, powerful brands. But I think the key takeaway here is like, you have to be consistent, but you also have to realize that this is your chance to show your audience like, hey, like I'm not this scary attorney, right? I am approachable, I'm friendly, we have a lot in common. I love doing triathlons. I would work with an attorney that's had in there like, Ironman triathlete, because my first approach would be, hey, what Ironman did you do? I did Lake Placid. What about you? Right. And then you're off to a conversation. And then who knows, I'm going to work with that attorney for life, right? Or I'm going to seek his advice or his expertise on things, right? So that conversation would never happen if it was just like the traditional like resume that we have. And then I go to his profile and I see all this content of him educating me, etc. And you can take that LinkedIn and post it in your emails as well once you're proud of it. It's low-hanging fruit to get people other places as well. So let me see.
Oh, sorry, Trevor, go ahead.
No, I was just going to see if there was any other questions on here.
I think that everyone would pick your brain all day long if we had more than an hour. I don't know what so POD, what does POD stand for? There's a question about, would covering PODs be relevant here?
Yeah, so it stands for, it's a pod. So who asked the question?
Sean.
Oh, Sean. So pods are essentially, you get a bunch of people together like mine, and they go and engage in everybody else's content.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Right. So they're a really bad idea because it's not your audience. It's everyone saying the same thing. Great post. Love it. Awesome. Thank you. Right. And so what happens then is it actually could penalize you a little bit, because It's not thoughtful content. LinkedIn has something called the dwell factor, right? I didn't want to get into this, but it's called the dwell factor. And so there's a public article that their engineers released. And what it states is that part of the algorithm determines if it's going to show the content to somebody. Like, yeah, engagement, how fast you get, the velocity plays a factor, which is why the pods, people kind of like hang on them. But the key is the dwell factor says if something is 500 words in length, and we know it takes the average user 3 minutes to do that, and they scrolled past that in 1 second and commented, they know that that wasn't really actually absorbed, right? So you can't trick the algorithms. These guys are just so smart. So pods just are like, don't focus on the vanity metrics. Don't focus on the likes. Comments are important, but likes and things like that don't matter because it could not be your audience.
Awesome. Trevor, thank you so much for your time today. Everyone, thank you for joining us. Please do contact Trevor, send him an email. He has a phenomenal group on Facebook that I stumbled on. We actually just randomly sort of met each other. I'm not even kidding. Like Trevor and I randomly met online and just instantly connected. And I have to say, there are, dime a dozen Facebook groups, but his group, on LinkedIn strategies, you can find it in Facebook groups. I will include it in the link when I send out the webinar recap for everyone who registered for this. Go and check it out. There's a lot of meaningful conversation. Keep this conversation going in there. And if SMITH.AI can help you free up your time, answer your calls and chats, text, Facebook messages for your business page, please get in touch, SMITH.AI, and you will be able to get $100 off your first month with code webinar100. So if you're watching this live or later, please take advantage of that. And we would love to show you what we can do to just reduce interruptions and help you capture those new leads that you're generating through the strategies we talked about today. So Absolutely. Everyone, take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks,
All right.
Trevor.
Thank you, guys.